be on camera?
No idea.
Because I know her breakers situation is still fucky bucky.
Hello, we're on stream. How's it going, y'all?
Hey.
Hi. Yeah, this is why you always keep
Hello.
watching stream, because sometimes you end up on stream without expecting to. Hello, friends. We are. I'll just launch into the episode unless you guys are really wanting me to hang back. Cool.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So we have some life stuff going on, and we're not ready to start our next arc yet. But we didn't want to deprive you all of some time with us, and we wanted to hang out with you guys. So we are here for a sort of talk-back session, a sort of question-asking session, mostly about the last season that we've been through, the Tales of New Gossimer. Which I need to send to the group. I just realized every time. Okay, I feel like we need to first walk through how you spell Gossimer, because this is the, I think, fourth wrong Gossimer spelling we've had in this crew.
And you have the ability to
maybe our
fix it.
showrunners should pick easier to spell names.
I thought you were saying it was what I did on the notes that I did. You, I was like, I'm not that right.
I'm just giving y'all shit a little bit. Because it is
the
funny.
Of me picking fucking stupid ass names. I'm the one that types them in.
Yep.
Which we also never
Don't
used the
worry.
one that I came up with. Sorry, Brett, go ahead.
In case you're worried next for the next show, the most difficult word to spell is little, and there's too many T's. I understand why that might be difficult, Blood, but I'm confident in your abilities.
I
we
wouldn't
never
count on that ability whilst high on painkillers.
We also never officially used the title for my show because mine was supposed to be Crimson Knights.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think we just said Vampire the Masquerade the entire time.
Yeah, I think so.
Mine literally had a Japanese word.
Isekai.
That was spelled perfectly every single time.
It's because everyone here except Tony watches Isekai.
But okay, so we have a few questions here. We actually have pre-written some questions, and we'll be taking questions from chat as well. So if you got some questions, you can. Yeah, Brett, what's up?
What show/season are we talking about for those that have no idea what's going on?
Yeah, so we just finished the Deadlands-based Weird West game, The Tales of New Gossimer. And that's a game I GM'd. Each of you played your own characters. And Darkness obviously isn't here, but Darkness played Earl. Bright played Major. Brett played Delilah. We have Nora played by Blood, and Rev. For some reason, I am blanking on your character name. Allie, thank you. I had Amy in my mind, and I knew it wasn't right. And the question we have on the sheet references Delilah, and that kept throwing me instead of your character's name. So it took me a second. But yeah, Allie, of course. And so we can talk through each of those characters a little bit. So I guess here's where we could start. Is this story is a Wild West, Weird West time loop story. It is a story about a town that is stuck in a day in time, and the effects that different experiencing day in time have on the rest of the world. Because this town is wildly important for a reason that you all may or may not know. And I think mostly don't know. Because we obviously didn't get to 100% of everything in Gossimer. So the reason why it affects the world at large so much is a big question. But what we did sort of address in a lot of this is what was going on, how was the time loop caused, and things like that. So if you have not watched the Tales of New Gossimer and you don't want things spoiled for you, now is your chance to go back, watch those, and then watch this on VOD. That's a huge recommendation from me. And we did, as a crew, I think some of the best storytelling we have ever done.
In a long time.
And that is not, I don't want that to be like me tooting my horn as a GM. I think each of you as characters made really good story choices and played really cool, interesting characters in ways that we've not done before. And I absolutely adored every minute of it. So I want to make sure that is a group success, not just a me success. Welcome, Darkness.
Yay, Darkness.
We're glad to have you back, my friend.
For the record, Darkness is just now returning because they are catching up as they missed the final few minutes of that episode. So without spoiling anything, because we are going to go into more details as we go through the questions, could I actually get your live reaction / impression upon your return of the ending of the show? You're good. You're good.
So, Blood, do you wanna show off your new VTuber?
I'm trying to. They're fighting me.
That's okay. When you get them ready, that's fine. But so, Darkness, you have did you get to finish the whole last episode of the parts you missed?
Yes.
So because this is something we didn't get to do the other night. What are your immediate thoughts? What's how you feeling, friend?
I want to know what happened, like with the house. Is it back together? Like, did the people that were in the bar live? Like,
yeah,
it was good. It was good.
Good. There are lots of big questions in this, and there are some things that we will hit on tonight that I either won't be able to answer or will not answer. And sometimes that's because I have more story planned for later in case we do more of this. And sometimes that is because I don't actually know. Because I, as the GM, am a GM who plays off of each of your characters and your decisions change and shape the world as we're telling this story together. And that's something that will become, I think, more and more obvious. And you all know this about me, that your decisions take on meaning as you're making them sometimes. If they didn't already. If you make cool decisions, they will get wrapped into this world.
Yes.
So.
And for our players that have not done so yet, we do have a document. It was in our Discord, so that way you can see the questions we've kind of set up for you, so it's not just a surprise, like you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the first things I want to talk about is I want to do just a quick character introduction. We've got an order on screen. So I'm going to go off of that. Starting in the left-hand top corner is Bright. Bright, tell us quickly about Major. Who is Major and what is some of their past like?
Oh, that's a great question, because I'm not going to lie, there really wasn't any.
No, there was a little bit. We had discussed a little.
There was like a little bit. So, her name was Major Ace Mask. I basically, the reason she was named that was because Brett kept making Legends of Zelda jokes about the Majora's Mask, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna do that as like a little inside joke, and therefore Major Ace Mask was born. She is a gun for hire who kind of just always had this brute strength about her, and just kind of ran with it. And since we were in a weird west, she is just weird. She's very straightforward, and luckily knew Nora and Delilah because, as someone who is muscle for hire, gun for hire, especially to the pessimists as we knew them. It was really lucky that she happened to be in Gossimer at the time that she was on contract for those two lovely ladies who were looking for new business opportunities. So,
That's amazing. It's kind of interesting how that's a very simple background, but I think it fueled quite a lot. Like I know you were kind of serious, but not serious. They're like, oh, there's nothing really there. That to me can insinuate a lot. And so as we move, if we do move forward with this game. That's something I'd love to dive into with you a little bit more because I think there's so much meat on that bone that we did not even touch.
Lots of potential for sure.
Yeah. So I love that. Darkness.
There we go.
You want to tell us about Earl? Who is Earl, and who were they before Gossimer?
So Earl grew up in a mining town. Lived his whole life in the mines and digging away. That was really his whole life. And then he encountered what he believes to be mole people, which kind of messed with his head big time. And so he vowed to never go back into the ground. And so he became kind of like a traveler, finding odd jobs here and there that could get him by. And he just kind of blew into the town like a tumbleweed and realized that these crazy ladies in there are also going through the same thing he was. And it's like I never really created a last name for him, I don't think.
I don't think you did either.
He was just Mr.
Which
Earl.
is kind of interesting.
I don't know why my brain was like, oh yeah, it's Earl J. Jones, and I'm like, no, that's
not
Mufasa.
right.
That's Darth Vader.
Which is James Earl Jones, but yes.
James Earl Jones. I was kind of close.
You said it, and I was like, that's so close. It hurts my brain to think about a little bit until I got it right. So I think Earl is Earl is a character I think that developed a lot throughout the story, and we can touch more on that a little bit later. But I really liked how Earl changed as we told the story together. So he's one we'll come back to quite a bit, I think. Let's go. Blood, you've got your amazing VTuber up now, which means it's time for you to be in the line of fire.
Oh, fuck.
But you also moved all the images around, so you messed up my order. So now you're next.
Yeah,
you did.
I had also just reordered the dock to follow the same order that Tony was setting. Same thing.
Yep.
You've just undid everything I did.
It's actually not. You just take Blood and put him back up to the top. But
I was about to say I was last, and now I'm first. We don't have to change anything.
It's not that big of a deal. But you're gonna be third now in this conversation because I am going like this, and I don't want to forget you. So let's talk about Nora, because Nora is I think was an interesting sort of thought, right? Because we've talked a little bit, I think more of Nora's backstory became available during the game than I think most folks. Second only probably to Delilah, I would say.
The sisters.
So how did you, what was your sort of inspiration to building Nora, and who is Nora? I guess maybe who is and
who
what
is
your
Nora?
inspiration? We should do.
Yeah. So a lot of what Nora is and became was the same thing as she started off as, surprisingly enough for a character I made. When we were making characters, Brett had brought up that Delilah was a bad luck charm. So I was like, okay, well, if she's my older sister, I have to somehow take care of this dumb bitch. So, very quickly, Nora became. I put so many of her edges. That's what they're called. I gave her so many edges because I, one, needed her to be a little bit more developed, and two, needed money.
Yeah, and I think that hits on a thing that I really liked about this system is you can develop your character more by taking more negatives.
Mm-hmm.
You can just make that choice, right? It's not like many other systems where, okay, you take one of these and one of these and one of these, and that's your character, right? If you take 3 negatives and you go, I really don't think that's the full character, you can just keep taking them and you get some positives out of it too.
Yeah.
So it balances. I really like that. I also remember having the conversation with you at the beginning where the part of your idea, correct me if I'm wrong, part of your idea with Nora came from the idea that in many Old West towns, it was actually run by women and run by the ladies of the night, right? They oftentimes wielded a ton of power, and we wanted to sort of explore that concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we ended up. A lot of my quote unquote power purely came from, yeah, okay, I can buy that, or yeah, okay, let me smooth this over. Like when we were in the engineer's shop or whatever her name was, Wilhelmina.
Yeah, Wilhelmina.
Yeah.
Wilhelmina F. Rogers, yes.
Being able to recover from the way that we were most definitely being a bitch to this lady. For just existing.
For being a person in the town.
In her garage.
Mm-hmm.
She had no control.
You all didn't know about that yet, for the record. You all were on her case from moment one.
I don't know if I was all. It was Allie and Earl that were being really aggressive.
I would like to say we just went through a situation where we just kept dying over and over, and we're just figuring out.
Oh no, 100%. We were traumatized, but.
Oh, absolutely. But somebody whose memory is wiped doesn't know that, and so they have to react to it fresh. Which is one of the kind of interesting things that I had to keep doing is going, at what point do residual memories happen in this world? Do they ever happen? Mm-hmm. Right? You all never encountered Wilhelmina F. Rogers, but at what point would she slightly deja vu remember that she doesn't like you?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a point.
Right.
But
a side feeling.
She liked me just fine by the end of it.
By the end of it, she liked you a lot better. Yes, absolutely. So, that was kind of interesting to see sort of Nora almost functioned sometimes as the adult in the room. Not always. No. But sometimes it had to step in and like, okay, everybody play nice together, right? And I think that was kind of fun. So let's go to the other side of the sisters. Brett, let's talk about Delilah.
Yeah, let's. One of my mother's favorite movies that we used to watch when I was younger was Maverick. No, it was the one with Mel Gibson, being a gambler. And I don't know if that's called Maverick. I'm trying to remember. Is it Maverick?
I mean, you also watched a lot of Little Apple Dumpling Gang or whatever it's called.
Interesting. Okay.
It is Maverick, yeah. But unlike Mel Gibson, Delilah isn't lucky. They struggled a lot. I can't remember exactly the world for the sword, and I apologize, Tony, but they were someone that was directly affected by the war ending, and that's when they found Nora at the tail end of just bad things happening, and they've been together ever since for 10 to 15 years. And
which is interesting because you all have described them as sisters, and I don't think we ever really touched on the fact that they're not really.
Yeah, they're not really my blood. They don't look
family,
at all.
Yeah.
They don't look like each other at all.
Yeah. Also, did we do Sippies and Stretch? I don't think we did.
I did.
But Emerald did redeem. Okay. So I just want to.
Also, nice shirt, Tony.
I saw that too. Thank you, Emerald.
Yeah, it's 100% found family, which is why their interactions, even though they feel like genuine sisters, there's always not a. Delilah loves Nora, but there is a hint of resentment because of how pretty she is. Genuinely, like, she adores her, but like, she could not be as successful with anything she does as well as Nora can, because Nora just has that natural charm and charisma that Delilah simply doesn't have.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, she's been touched by something that has given her these gifts that she has. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been
and
delivered.
that's one of the questions that I've got a question for you later about how Delilah got her powers, but we can talk about that a little bit later. I want to finish our introductions here, and we only have one little itty bitty person left who didn't have anything to do with the rest of the story. I'm sure, right, Raven?
Howdy, y'all. I played Allie Snyder. Just a simple woman trying to make her way through the West. Just minding her own business, taking odd jobs here and there, and earning honest money. Well, I mean, it was honest when when the other people had earned it, and then she got it. Probably in less honest terms, but these things happen, and every now and then you've got to move on. And she found herself in this, let's be honest, shithole of a town where everything kept just fucking up around her. With these jackasses who would not take her seriously as the real threat that she is. But no, seriously, Allie is a con woman who is there to lie, cheat, and steal from anyone around her, and was thrown into a circumstance where she absolutely could not get away with that, and had to make do. And so a lot of her experience in this whole situation was just, what the fuck do I do here? I have to be with these people because something keeps throwing us back together, but there's nothing I can actually provide to these people. And then she arguably saved the day.
Arguably saved the day.
In what way? Explain it to us.
No. Give us how this came about and how exactly.
Absolutely.
Allie...
It was Allie's plan that led to killing the bad guy that we were fighting.
The bad guy that had nothing to do with the time loop?
Allie isn't aware of that. Allie wasn't there for that conversation.
Y'all didn't want to go to that house in the first place. Earl's the reason you all went there.
Allie's plan led to the death of the sheriff, and then the time loop ended. As far as Allie's concerned, hero of the day.
This bitch.
Does it feel cold
Thank you, Emerald.
to anyone else in this room?
Yeah, it does. The desert night air has a chill to it.
Yeah, I feel a draft, like something's just missing. Maybe that's just me.
So I think that's really, really interesting. And I also, one of the things I want to touch on is before we went, I asked the group before we started, when I was really early on, we did a session 0. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to ask the group and say, hey, and I do this with the Wonderarium as well, quite a bit. what are things that you absolutely would love to see in this? Because if there's a chance for me to make the thing that you want to happen, I will do it. And this group said two things. There were two really big things that this group wanted. I don't know if y'all remember completely what they were. The first was they wanted a piano to fall on somebody, which I tried to make happen two separate ways, and neither one worked.
We were brutally murdered in our defense.
You saw the piano swinging, and everyone went, "Not going near that." So you never experienced any of what happened with that. And then the other was somebody crazy who knew what was going on. Some crazy hermit-like person or persecuted type person who knew what the shtick was. And because of their like wisdom and over knowledge, they seemed wacky. And you all know this. That person became Lost Gordon. So it's kind of interesting seeing how the requests kind of came into the story. Because
I
the first
have a question for you.
Yeah.
Was Lost Gordon originally going to be the person that knew all this stuff, or did you have to change that due to time constraints?
So yes, Lost Gordon from moment one was somebody who was aware of the time loop, and that is part of what made him crazy. Is that he was so aware of all of the loops and his own death and all of the crazy shit that was going on, that he basically served as insane to the people of this town. Brett, you looked like you had a question.
I have to go real quick. The boy needs to be let outside.
Oh, okay.
The child.
No so that was one of the things that was very interesting. And I had many notes of our first session of like things that I wanted to get involved. We covered about 2/3 of them in the actual town. I'm not going to read them because they're fodder for later encounters. But yeah. So, what questions do you all have for me about the world in general, about the storytelling sort of tactics I used? What sort of questions do you have?
The beginnings, where it was like always a different like perspective almost.
Yeah, those stories.
Those stories, yeah. I'm also eating. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. What would you like to know about them?
Like,
how did they change? Like, why
they changed? Yeah. So the tactic I took with them was, if the time loop ended in this exact second, how would it change the world? And so, to look back at, I have most of them written down. Some I actually did improv on the spot, or had just a couple of sentences and finished the rest because, you know. So we start with the desert drying up. Right? If you had done nothing, everything around would probably die and become super sandy. Episode 2 was right after you had been killed by the Razor tumbleweeds. And that world the town ended up getting swarmed by a vicious plant life. And that vicious plant life spread to the world. And so the beginning of episode 2 starts us out in this giant verdant jungle where all the wildlife is trying to kill people. Episode 3 is when you first found out about the darkness underneath the town and the ground falling out from underneath you. And so we explored the thinness between planes and what the void of hell a bit looks like. Let's see, 4, if I remember correctly, was 4 was right after something with the marshal had happened. It was right after. Yeah, I don't quite exactly remember what had happened right before 4, but 4 was basically talking about the thing that had inhabited the sheriff taking over the land, and spreading its minions and its forces, its giant armies of pistol wielding deputies taking over the world. And then episode 5 um, revealed some of the story of Ithra and um, and oh, come on, Moart. There we go. I blanked on it for a hot second. Ithra and Moart. So, which was kind of a fun foreshadowing at the beginning as to the end.
Yeah.
So,
Are
of
those
that
two,
same episode.
Are those two creatures that you came up with, or are they a part of the Savage Worlds like lore?
Those are beings that I came up with for this. I am terrible at remembering world lore and pantheons, so I am very fast and loose with the Deadlands lore itself.
Yeah.
Which is great, considering that 2 of the other people in this group are actively writing extended pantheons for their own fictional universes.
Yeah. And which is, it's
I'll
kind
share
of
my notes with
a
you,
challenge. Yeah. But yeah, so those were most of the intros. I think there's one that I didn't read here, but I don't have it written down at this moment, so I'd have to go back and double check my notes, or my the recordings for it. Because a couple of those I had some of those. So we all know that I come back from playing sports and usually have about 10 minutes before stream to get my mind right, and 15 minutes in the car. So some of those were written in my mind driving through the dark watching for deer as I was on my way to because everybody knows for most of us that pressure is the best motivator for invention. That until there is that pressure, sometimes the well is a little dry. So yeah. That's how those intros came to be. But yeah, I'm trying to think here. So I think this is one thing that I led into, and Brett is back. I think it's a good starting spot for us here to start doing a little more character questions too.
I was going to suggest that we round table it, so whoever answers a question picks the next person.
Perfect. So then I will just do that. So because I sort of teased this earlier, let's talk about Delilah's powers, because Delilah has, I think, the most unique powers of anybody. How did Delilah? Yeah, how did Delilah get her powers? And they come from like this enchanted deck of cards. Does she ever run out of cards? Like, I this is something that I'm curious about.
The way that I think about it is that it's not the card. She lost a part of her eye to make the deal that she has to get the sort of power she has. She's very much the warlock sort of vibe. She was. I actually believe she had a spouse during the Civil War that passed away. She got married a little too young and tried to do things to get him back by any means necessary. Did a lot of research into the occult and unnatural things, trying to get him back, and it didn't work. And instead, she has these gifts, and these cards are a way that she's able to do these things But it's more of the spirit of the cards. It's any playing cards that she feels needs to do so, which is why she has 4 decks of cards on her on all times that she can just shoot off and go. And during her travels, trying to find better answers or results for what she's trying to do, she found Nora.
That's really cool. So to reveal some more to you guys, a lot of this information, I as the GM, man, maybe we talked about this and I didn't write it down, but I did not know a lot of that information. So I'm writing that down because that's stinking, like good meaty backstory, cool stuff, for us to play with later. But also, I love some of the intention that is put behind that. Like that, I really like that. So
her focus changed a little bit because either maybe Nora wasn't aware that her parents were also a part of some of the occult stuff, and they got mixed up in the wrong crowd, which is why, like, Delilah came to the house saying, "Shit, we gotta go." Found her parents dead. Like, oh, Nora, crap, or something like that might have happened, or maybe Delilah killed Nora's parents, just hasn't told her. We don't know. We haven't discussed that. That could be juicy.
Could be.
I always kind of headcanoned Nora's parents as just leaving at some point.
They went to the farm.
They went to the farm, no. But yeah, no, we can definitely play with something on that end for sure, because Nora's whole existence since Delilah picked her up has been, okay, at first you're taking care of me, I have to pay you back some point. And then Delilah proved to be a hazard to herself. And Nora's like, okay, I'm keeping you alive now. My lovely sister, please stop trying to die on me.
Part of the thing that also could have been, she gave up her luck as a part of her boons, which is why she's just a bad luck magnet. Something, I don't know.
Yeah. The bad luck magnet is something we will have to play with later.
Yes.
That is such a juicy morsel as a storyteller, that we really didn't do a ton of touching on here.
I mean, I died and hurt a bunch because of it.
You guys leaned into it. I didn't actually touch it at all. Because you guys did such a good job of representing that in your roleplay and in how you all did that. I didn't have to do any of that, which is awesome. All right, like it wasn't me punitively like doing something. It was you all gleefully being like, hit the button, go, right? Which is my favorite kind of way to have players interact with things.
That's the way our group goes. Anyway, we're like, ooh. Can I have some bad consequences?
We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You're very quiet, but I did hear you go.
Got it. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, did my settings change? Oh no.
No, I because I'm actually holding the mic today, I turned down my settings because I didn't want to be overpowering, but I seem to have over-adjusted.
Oopies.
I've done that a time or two with mine. So, Brett, what questions do you have for somebody? If we're gonna like popcorn this around, I don't want to just shout popcorn, but
popcorn.
We'll start playing the music. Your time's up. Ask someone else.
Darkness.
Yes.
It's a question for Earl. If it turned out that there were mole people that were behind this or some sort of implication, how would they have handled it?
Not well.
Not well.
Earl thinks the reason that he's alive is because he saw the mole people and he made a pact with them to not fuck with them.
Oh.
And that's why. Part of the reason he won't go back in the ground.
I see.
So if it were mole people, the world would die. Like, that would have been it. He would have just lived out every loop.
Excuse me. Fair enough.
Just the mole people get the world now. It's fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Darkness, I don't know if you have if you opened up the Google Doc that we're all working out of with questions. If you have questions that aren't in the Google Doc, that's great. Ask them of whoever. But if you are like, I am drawing a blank, like we sometimes do, that's why the Google Doc exists, is because we have some extra questions in there. But yeah, we can also dig into this a little bit more.
Where is this Google Doc located?
It's in the Tales of New Gossimer section specifically.
Cool.
It's taking a long time to load. So, Allie. If there weren't like other people as part of the loop, how do you think your character would have taken care of it?
Ooh, that is an interesting one. I'm not sure Allie could have done it. Nothing about Allie was ever legitimate. Like all of her skill was in lying to people. So I don't think that she would have ever been able to have on her own made it happen. She also wasn't really capable of like piecing it all together. I think the best that could have happened would have been if at some point she started like, if she had put together that she was the only one that had been remembering things, that she may have tried to put together a team similar to what we ended up having to trial and error their way through it. But I don't know if she ever actually would have been able to have handled it without this particular group of people. I honestly think that coming out of this, Allie has some serious self-doubt. Because she's never been in a serious situation that she couldn't just bullshit her way through. Let's go. Bright. How close was Major to swinging on Ithera?
The guy next to the tree, I'm assuming, is Ithera, right?
Yeah.
Ithera.
Yes. Yeah. That long, protracted conversation.
Yeah. Pretty damn close. Especially with, like, and this is because of Tony's amazing improv skills, but also because of how late in the night it was. Because for context, that entire game session, I had a migraine. And at the beginning of the session, I remember texting Tony and being like, hey, if you need to kill me, awesome. Perfect.
Do it.
I would prefer it. I was like, just pull the trigger and I'm out. Cool.
And I was watching. I would say I was watching to see. You were doing so well. You were either pushing through so well that I didn't notice, or you were feeling pretty good at that point, or like dealing with it really well. Because I had an eye on you.
Professional actor. I am good at faking. But no. I will say that like the one thing that Major got like was like starting to get angry about it wasn't until like the end, but like the slow drawl that this character had, they were like, I need you to use your McFucking words, I swear to God.
It did almost like Captain Kirk sort of calmness to
it was
all.
like, yeah, it was like, I don't like saying this, but like it was Obama's speech, and it was like I couldn't like
wow.
But like, if I say that, everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about, and that is exactly
I was
what
about
was
to go
happening.
into an impression. I was like, never mind.
I bet what's interesting is that sort of speech pattern. You can do it a different way with like Shatner.
Yeah,
right?
You right.
Shatner has a, and in fact, fun fact: in high school, during one of my forensics speeches, I was in fact compared to William Shatner because I paused so much during that speech. So that was a combo of me and also a bit of the choice of a being that represented time having all the time in the world and yet being impatient.
Yeah,
And it was that mixture that I really like ate up.
Yes, no, 100%. And and so like Major, not necessarily like having that glimpse of like I think I know what I'm talking to, but also like there's no fucking way that it could be exactly what I think it is. And so I just need the information. Like I'm trying to move it along, and it's just like you are like, and it wouldn't, I don't think in Major would have even shot um Ithera or anything like that. Definitely would have clubbed him over the dome though, like absolute just
Hey there, Blood.
get it.
I misclicked. It's fine.
I thought you were like your games on your phone. You got real.
Blood got really interested in this story.
Blood has something to say about this topic.
No. No, I was trying to fucking reposition my character, and just suddenly it was, haha.
Suddenly, Blood.
But that was something that but I don't think she would have actually done it. Which was
not surprising.
Yeah. But like if there were absolutely no consequences, especially like because I think the moment Major realized that like physical violence wasn't going to do anything was when Ithera started saying that like, and it's just like, we've already had this conversation 100 dozen times. I've seen you have every single thought expressed in this way. We have talked this exact same conversation multiple times, and it has never ended the way it needs to. And Major was like, oh, this is so above my pay grade. Like, just one of those things of like, I am fucked if I don't get the resolution here. Which violence couldn't do. And like, to a certain extent, like, is Major absolutely a trigger happy, bloodthirsty maniac? Yeah, 100%. Did we get to explore that? Not really, but that's okay. Which is the irony of how it ended too. But we'll get to that in later questions. But it was something that she was like, crap, I have to use this diplomacy or whatever the fuck the other people use. Well, she also had that tongue-tied edge where like she had a negative to all of her talking checks because she would get tongue-tied.
Was talking to the least charismatic person was talking to literally the god of time.
Yep. Yeah. And which worked out for the better.
Go ahead, sorry.
In my opinion, I think and we've all kind of collectively talked about it afterwards in reflection and stuff like that of like if we had done it any other way it would have been so vastly different. But the main thing with Major being tongue-tied, I saw that and I was like, this is a great excuse for whenever I slip up with my ADHD speed talk and I start saying and then all of our friends are gonna go, did you mean XYZ? No, my character meant that shit, okay?
Yeah.
And it was great.
I love it. That's one of the things that I want to touch on really quick because it is something that is not clear from the ground level, but is very clear from the sky level where I am. The beings that you encountered are not gods.
Yeah, this said specifically they weren't a god. They were waiting for one.
So nothing that you experienced was a god, and part of that is in intentional world design on my part, because these are lower middle managers almost in that sort of a way of there may be gods above them, but most people don't even really encounter the middle managers, which gives us a really like different. It is not the classic like Dungeons and Dragons. You have the god of light and goodness who talks to you because you are their cleric. Like this is complicated and all over and things from, a grove of forest can have beings like this that represent it, right? Like you can have a forest that has a being like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me in Rise of the Guardians, where the Guardians and the Boogeyman weren't the actual leaders. It was the Man on the Moon, but no one talks or thinks to talk to the Man on the Moon because it's the moon.
There's that no.
So if you read the books for that, the lore is really deep, and the Man on the Moon it's a crazy thing. Jack Frost is
cool.
Like goes way back with the Man on the Moon to their home planet. That's what I'm gonna say.
Oh, Nightlight and all that. Yeah.
I enjoy the fact that so many of y'all's touch points are things that I have no idea about for this story, right? So, like, we talked about Majora's Mask and The Legend of Zelda. Brett sent me video explainers of that story, and both because I didn't want to be swayed and also because I am tired and it was an hour and a half long video.
It's good to sleep
I did
too.
not. I'm sure it is. I enjoy football for that. So I did not watch it. And in that way, I also didn't want to lean on crutches and steal from Majora's Mask, because it would have been all too easy to do so. There are things that I stole from. Absolutely, there are. But none of them were the direct concept like that. And it's interesting to see how all the pieces that I stole sort of lead you all to things that I've never watched. So
goodbye, darkness,
that was kind of interesting to me. Oh no, yeah. Well, hopefully they'll be back here very soon.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I do have a question for Blood. Will Nora ever forgive Delilah for removing their arm?
Nora's never gonna hold it against Delilah.
What does that mean? That seems like you are blaming someone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fuck the gods that aren't gods.
We would see them as gods, but they're not gods in their own.
Yes.
Like,
the higher
hierarchy.
powers that be.
Yeah, and as long as you all understand, like from a storytelling perspective, that they're not gods, your characters can believe they're gods. That's fine, right? Just like whether or not there are mole people in this world, Earl will believe there are mole people in this world.
Sure.
And maybe there are, and maybe there aren't. We'll learn that later.
On the next episode.
I mean, if I keep talking like we're gonna keep doing this, if we do keep doing this, that's something to be explored later if we want to. Anyway, keep going.
But no, as far as Nora's concerned, in that moment, they preyed upon the fact that Delilah wanted to protect. And as far as she's concerned, they're about the only thing she'd willingly fucking take a swing at. Because, unless we haven't broadcasted this enough, I took the pacifist feat. I took the major pacifist feat, meaning I could not harm another being unless it was under direct duress, and I may not kill them, to get away. So I could, like, shove somebody back and book it. But that would be about the extent of what I, as Nora, could do. Which also fits into Nora's thing because she doesn't like fighting. She doesn't like getting physical like that. When words and a conversation can do just as good, even better.
If I may offshoot from your question. With the leveling up process, you can, with the leveling up, you can make something, any of your major debuffs that you have, like your pacifist, would you turn that into minor, so that you may become a bit more violent because of this instant with the arm removal?
No.
Because you can lessen one of your hindrances.
I could. But Nora still sees most of the world as, if I can talk my way through it, we're fine. And I did talk my way through it. I talked my way through it with some gods, and they took your fucking arm, and I hate them. Specifically them.
Talking wasn't getting us anywhere. Unless I'm forgetting how that ended. We were kind of stuck.
This is one of those situations. This is how you get atheists within a universe where gods are inarguably real. Is this sort of like, oh yeah, I've met them and they're fucking assholes.
Basically. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, so there's also the point where Nora has this weird hero worship for Delilah. Because as a little kid, Delilah decided to pick up this stupid little orphan and take her with her. And that has immediately put into Nora's head that Delilah is a lot more important than just about anyone else, according to me. And therefore, I will do everything I can to defend and protect her. Which is also a thing to do with my hindrances. It's fine.
It sounds fine.
But no, so it's according to Nora, Delilah can do no wrong. Not exactly, but you know, there's a certain level of, I mean, that's just Delilah. It's fine. She's doing her thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Who
Yeah,
shall
there's a level
I
of
ask?
trust there.
Yeah. And very much their past greatly influences that. And I wanted that to be a huge part of Nora. Just period in the gameplay. Which is why early on we did the whole picking on each other like siblings do.
We got mean with some of those, though.
We got mean. That is, to be fair, I have been meaner to my sister, and we were giggling 2 seconds later.
Yes.
Yeah, siblings are assholes to each other.
Siblings are absolute terrors to each other.
I think I've told you all this before. This is a light version, but my one of the most frustrating things when you're in a family of boys is no one wants to sit still for a picture. So my brothers and I realized that we could do a thing where everybody got one free shot right before a picture, and if we all just decked each other in the arm really quickly, it was all even. So nobody had any reason to be angry, and we all laughed about it. So then we were smiling and standing still for the photo because we all got to hit each other one good time. And my parents stood by and just watched us wail on each other for a minute. And then we take a delightful photo, and I feel like that is the energy here, where like, yeah, you're absolutely being mean to each other, and if anybody else were to do it, it'd be a huge problem.
I'd murder them.
Oh yeah,
I'd figure out some way to ruin them. Who hasn't been asked? I think everyone, and Rev is currently gone.
Yeah, everyone has been asked something.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go with an everyone question then, because I want to.
Okay.
What would you have sacrificed if Delilah hadn't cut off her arm? Like, what would your characters be willing to give up?
So
I will say, you don't get to get out of this. You still have to pick the order that we answer in.
Oh,
That's fair.
I was gonna go first.
I was just gonna go into order of our cameras, so yeah.
Fair.
I guess that means that you're answering first, Blood.
Uh-huh.
Masterful Paul.
I 100% had an idea of what Nora would sacrifice. A lot of the importance that I got from this was literally I can't find my connection to this person that I've lost. I was gonna give up memories.
Fuck.
I would like to press what memories.
So, I very specifically have Nora having one very precious memory of their childhood with their biological parents. It was a building base for how I developed her. And I was going to give that up.
Would have been a very powerful sacrifice. I can tell you that.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mal?
Yeah, so now I feel like an asshole because because Brett asked me this question like a couple nights ago, and it's just like, what would Major? And I was like, fucking nothing. Literally on stream, when I had the inkling that there was supposed to be a sacrifice of some sort, obviously blood is usually the first thing that people think of, she immediately went and pointed to the building where bullets were flying and going, if you need a sacrifice, a bunch of people just died in that fucking building, take them.
Hey.
And when pressed further, the only thing I could think of was that maybe she would have given up her hat or like one of her guns that her mentor had given her. Because I'm like, surely as a bounty hunter, you have a mentor of some kind that tolerates your bullshit enough to do that. But the thing is for Major, those things are replaceable. She really didn't care that much about her mentor. There was nothing of true value to her that she had. The only way that she would have sacrificed anything is if someone sacrificed her for their own gain.
I think that is
That's very Major,
as
though.
interesting as an answer as memories to me.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like that shows a lot of the mental like stature of Major and how they view the world. And what's kind of interesting is it hints at almost a traumatic lack of attachments.
I was about
Because
to say, yeah.
if nothing really matters, usually that's a wound, my friend. And sorry, I didn't mean to make that a call out, but that hints at more things.
Madam.
And that's kind of a really cool thought process to explore. And I also think it's true to how you played the character, right? It would have felt, I think, very hollow if you had been like, oh, this photo of a loved one that I made up just now, even though we played it completely differently the other night, right?
Yeah.
The character is who they are, and I like you, sort of holding true to your guns there, and that's kind of really cool.
Yeah, that's fair. Darkness. What would Earl have given up as a sacrifice had Delilah not cut off her arm?
So we kind of played on it with Earl like falling madly in love with the bartender. And with her being gone in this loop, Earl, I would say, couldn't really find a reason to continue on. So he probably would have set his life to save the others, free the others, and to also free him.
That's another really heady one.
Yeah.
Have we noticed how heavy this fucking campaign has been?
It's good though. It's a good heavy.
It's so good.
I don't know about y'all. I mean, I was just there to shoot shit.
I also am going to take a slight victory lap here because in our personal conversations, one of the things I've told multiple of y'all is one of the things I had assumed would be the sacrifice was actually Earl themselves. And then Darkness had to leave, which enriched our story by putting it in a spin. And so that was one of the things I kind of had sort of seen based on Earl's devotion to Hattie. And it is going to be is something interesting that if we continue this, we'll have to sort of dig into a little bit, because what do you do with someone who feels like they have nothing left?
Yeah.
Right. How do you put one foot in front of the other?
Especially when you feel like you just found the reason to continue, to
Mhm.
stay, and to live again, and then it's just gone.
Yeah.
And there's
See,
nothing you could have done about it.
that's where my evil twisted mind goes, and it's just like, see, if they don't have anything to live for, the cruelest thing you can do is torture them to keep living, because then you just keep doing this. It's not a Sisyphusian thing. It's like, I can't remember which Greek myth it is, but like it's basically like you give them like you're about to get this thing, you're promised this thing, and then just whoop, take it away, and then they're like, fuck,
Tantalus.
and so then they have to keep who?
Tantalus.
Tantalus, yes.
Yeah.
Tantalus?
Like
Don't just
tantalizing.
make up words.
Well, no, it's the base.
First of all, that's my bit. And second of all, anytime someone's like, I don't remember the Greek myth, I'm just like, all right, I'll wait for it. Resident priest.
Yep.
Ta-da!
But yeah. So I think that would have been the cruelest thing that would have happened to Earl, the person being like, no, I'm not going to take your life because you will find an eventual purpose to live.
Well, hold on. Are you saying that Major would offer to kill Earl after all this happened?
No.
No, it sounds like they're specifically saying that had Earl tried to put himself on the chopping block, that Major would have prevented that.
No, it sounds
No,
like
no, no,
she's
no.
saying
It's
the
like the
gods
god
said
wouldn't
no.
take it because
The god.
Like that's not
Would
a
he have?
sacrifice. That's like
Would they have?
that would be freedom for you.
I mean, Tony
What
already
the god
said
had, or what?
that was what his plan
What
was.
Major have?
It wasn't my plan. That was the path I saw
potential.
y'all sort of heading to, and what I sort of expected to happen. But the downside of the way I GM is there are some questions we don't know until we get there. So would the god or would the being have accepted that as a sacrifice? So first, let me do a little bit of world building in that it was not the being themselves who accepted anything.
It
was the knife.
Oh.
The knife is actually what absorbed the sacrifice and imbued itself with the power. It's a combination of like the ceremony and the knife. There's more behind it. I'm trying not to get too in depth with it, but it is the actual that moment itself that imbued the knife with the sacrifice to allow it to do extraordinary things. So I don't know if it would have accepted that. Possibly. There is, from a storytelling perspective, there is great power in sacrificing oneself for lost love to bring back two lovers. And so I'm drawn to that story a little bit.
Brett, following up, had Delilah not taken her arm, is there something else that she would have done, or was that the option?
The other option would have having removed her eye patch, so that way the world could see her shame of the sacrifice she'd made and failed to do. She would not give up her cards, because that would ruin. She would not be able to live with that. It's easy to be a one-handed card player. Not easy to be a card player without any cards.
Yeah. Which I'm going to pause here and break our rhythm a little bit, because this is the exact bit of a question that I wanted to ask and sort of come. I want to dig in a little bit deeper on that, because in our conversations, you and I were talking, and I was talking about how it seemed like a sort of big and selfless act, and your response was that it was actually the most selfish thing that they could have done in that moment.
Yes.
You have to explain that.
Yeah.
I actually do understand it, yeah.
Her flesh means nothing because she's already given enough to get power that she has. she can cast spells through her cards or through any part of her. Her arcane focus is the cards, but she doesn't use her cards to communicate with animals or to do any of her other techniques. So technically, and I was thinking about this, if she really wanted to, she could cast Bolt and create her arm into like a thing of lightning and then punch somebody with Bolt. Instead, it was the most selfish thing. It's some flesh. We lose, like, everyone gets cut, everyone gets grazed. It didn't matter. What mattered was fixing this, getting over all of this. She was vain enough, though, to not want to show the shame that is underneath the eye patch, and she was not willing to get rid of what gives her a semblance of power and strength, being her cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an arm to her. Does that make any sense? Am I?
It makes sense in a demented sort of way, not demented, but like in the characters' mindsets.
In the mindset of somebody who delves into desperation so much they give up their own eye for more powers, it absolutely makes a ton of sense. To me, Tony, who sits at a computer all day, that's a little bit confusing. But I can put myself in that character's mindset and see exactly what you're talking about there. So, yeah.
She can still protect her sister with one arm.
Right. The most important things to her are still guarded and protected, and even more so because of this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Nora's sitting here. You fucking idiot! I had it.
Yeah.
Well, because to Nora, flesh is everything. If you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Because without flesh, Nora wouldn't be able to make money.
Ta-da! How about you, Allie? What would Allie do?
Yeah. So, since that night, there's only been one thought that has come to mind as the immediate thing that Allie would have come to. And it's wild. Because knowing Mal's answer for Major and then hearing my answer, it's going to throw people because you'd have thought it might have gone the other way around. Allie's immediate response would have been to have put her wallet down and sacrifice all of her money. Every penny she had.
That makes sense.
And not in the sense of like, oh, it's just money, I can get more. To Allie, her money is everything. She's a con woman. That's a measure of her success. That is the only thing she cares about in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so without a question, it would have been, here's everything I have. And it would have been the billfold.
That's kind of interesting. Because it is something that seems very flat at first. When you first said it, I was like, okay, all right. But then the more you explain it, the more it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. To any of these other people, giving up their money had been like, wow, great sacrifice.
All what, $10.50?
Yeah. But for Allie to willingly put her money up, ostensibly for other people, and for something that will not directly benefit her, which she could sit back and let this happen, which arguably is how it went down, but also Delilah just acted instantly and already had the knife.
Yeah.
But like in that role, there would have been no thought. It would have been, this is what I have to do. So yeah, that's it. That's the thing.
Imagine if all of us had to sacrifice something. That would have been different.
Ooh.
Don't mind me just writing stuff down for later.
No.
But so one of the things, and I'll take a turn with this because I think there's something that I can add to this question. I think I've mentioned this to several of you. There was another method that could have happened with this.
Yes.
In that
Remember this.
you all could have chosen to sacrifice Ithra themselves. If you had decided to stab Ithra with the knife, that likely, because you would actually be sacrificing part of the concept of time itself.
Oh, damn.
And so some of the backstory between Ithra and I'll go ahead and reveal this. Some of the backstory behind Ithra and Moart is Ithra was in that exact place because it is a reliable place of death. And Moart shows up the moment of death. And so if you can reliably, time and time again, cause the moment of death, you can spend time together with the one you love. One other way to do that is by causing Ithra to experience that moment.
That's very selfish of Ithra to do. It's unbelievably selfish.
I mean,
they're gods who fucking.
I was just gonna say that's kind of what their whole MO was with that whole the whole situation was a selfish thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. But just
remember how I described them as middle managers?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very middle manager thing to let someone on your team take the fall over and over and over again and then shed them because they're replaceable.
Yeah.
So that's not just a throwaway sentence when I say they're closer to middle managers. There are beings that are lower on the totem pole that have power, that have more value on human life. There are different types of middle managers out there, but many of them
to time itself
don't care as much. So that's sort of some of the process there. And that's part of why I think this is a really interesting, like the sacrifice, leaving it. I thought it was very interesting to leave the sacrifice very open ended, and to just see what you all would bring, and just be ready to pivot. Wherever we were going. And I wasn't expecting to be surprised, and I was. I absolutely was. So it was. Sorry. We have to bring some. Go ahead.
After we're done with that, Mel was like, "That was stupid." I was like, "What?" You're like, "Why would you sacrifice your arm?" I was like,
I'm not gonna lie, my immediate thought was, how the fuck do you shuffle cards with one hand?
Oh no.
I love that.
Valid point.
Sorry, I have to bring some levity back into this conversation a little bit.
What, are we too dark and depressing for you?
Oh, don't worry, you'll get yours, friend.
I don't want it.
Because this next question is for you.
Fuck.
Because we have this in our group of questions, and it was multiple people put this question together, and Raven knows exactly what I'm about to ask. So the question for Nora is, and I'm reading this word for word, how good the fuck? And then in parentheses, what that ussy do?
No! Why?
My favorite is getting highlighted with the note afterwards saying asked.
Asked.
Darkness, I'm sending you Snapchats of the questions.
I also sent a screenshot of it.
Oh my lord.
But I think so. Here is a better version of this question. I'll make this question actually a little bit more viable here. How about that?
I think it's perfectly viable the way it is, but
how good the fuck?
Well, so we've talked about this a little bit, but what made Nora turn to a life of sex work? Like what in her life, obviously there is some like needing to get by. It's a job, right?
Mhm.
Like it is an honest way to earn a living, like there's, but she had
stole a
so
man's
many
pants.
choices.
I did
Right.
steal a man's pants and his vest.
Why that choice for Nora? Why
I
is
think-
that the skills she decided to hone instead of using her charisma to be a con woman or a saleswoman or there are many things that this type of charisma could be used for. This was the path.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, at least in my head, while Nora and Delilah are traveling around, Delilah is in these seedy bars with Nora somewhere behind. And so that really shaped Nora's view of the world outside of the right, why? I had to read that right fucking then. For those who aren't seeing chat, with great ussy comes great responsibility?
It's responsibility. I just didn't spell check. Because I didn't want to interrupt verbally. I wanted to interrupt.
No, I couldn't fucking not. Oh god. Anyway.
Grounded.
Great OC responsibility.
So Nora's like worldview of what a strong woman was these individuals who took control of their bodies using it this way, as well as we said previously, they were the women who ran the town. They were the women who could get guys or a mob started off of because of their power and because of their abilities. I love that cough right there. Mm-hmm.
It was genuine. I mean, drinking spicy V8. It's not sponsored.
But yeah, so that's what Nora saw as strength, was to be able to mold people that way. And obviously, it feels good. So there's that.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm now just imagining.
If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Nora,
a greater lie has never been told.
And it's hard to feel like work when you're lying on your back.
Especially work is also hard.
Well, so very pointedly, Nora does everything else first. If they're tired, they can't do much.
Masterclass.
I would also say that anytime Nora's going off to work, Delilah gives her a bolt card just in case things go poorly and she can't be in the road nearby. As like here, take this, like version of Mace, except it's literally a bolt of ice or lightning in the face.
What's she gonna do with it though? She's a pacifist.
Unless they are in danger, they will.
If in danger, I can do something. I just can't kill them.
Right, and they're not killing them. They're just tossing the card.
The card explodes their chest.
Listen, I don't know what card it is.
Yeah,
Nora most appropriately, Delilah gives this card to Nora, saying, "This is your get out of jail free card," without explaining it any farther than that.
That's fair. I love that version of it.
Yeah.
I will say, Blood, Tony has done something very mean to you because it's your turn to ask again.
I know. It's fine. This is fine. We're gonna instead. I'm not giving Tony the fucking right to talk again. That's not a fucking thing that I'm doing. Abso-fucking-lutely not. So instead, we're going to go to Well, that feels weird asking any of those of Delilah.
Ask one that you don't. That's not on here.
Brett get 5
pick
questions.
someone
I
else.
only have 4 questions.
Yeah, ask Bright something.
Or Rev has lots of questions that we haven't asked.
I'm also not giving Rev the right to speak. Bright.
What did Brett
Yes.
say right?
I'm surprised that I have the right to speak because I said a lot of stupid shit.
But it's funny shit, so.
Thank you.
I'll remember that.
Does Major feel like she did the right thing following the coin without waiting for the group?
Yeah. Because
Go into that tree.
Yeah, I think honestly that was the right call because with the fact that one of them was in jail, there were multiple shots getting put off by people who are not equipped to shoot things. Truly, they may have the equipment to, but they do not have the faculties to.
I resent that, but I think you're not talking about Delilah.
No. I'm talking about all of y'all. Whoever made that edit on the last question added, I love them. But also another thing was Tony and I talked about this as well regarding the coin. The coin was improv. Because originally there was no coin, and then once we got to the statue and I just happened to ask the right question of, is there a way I can insert this coin into the statue? The kind tongue-tied calling it. It's an edge.
You can't coin tongue-tied. We're talking about a coin.
What are you edging with your tongue while you're trying to say ka?
Anyway.
I'm curious.
We're all going to hell.
Anyway. Oh, wait a second. I'm reversed for you guys, aren't I? Who did I just point to?
Somebody.
You're
I
good.
think I meant to point to my husband.
Your husband.
I think it's this
That's
one.
your husband.
There we go.
So real quick, I do want to explore that just a little bit more because the coin is so let's touch on this a little bit. So the coin was improv. I had an idea for what the coin would do when I implemented it. However, the moment that Bright asked, is there a spot in the palm of the statue for the coin, my plans went out the window. Because that was such an interesting idea to me that I said, screw it, we'll make it work. Which is part of like I mentioned at the beginning that there are many decisions that you all made that changed the world around you. And this is a perfect example of one. Because there was originally basically the entire end game changed because you asked one question.
That's so cool.
That's how powerful you guys are in this story. And so I think that's something that I love, and I want to highlight that. The other thing is like, at what point would what would have made Major step back away from the coin? Because other folks around you were afraid of the coin. The coin made a gunshot noise when you flipped it, and you still were like, "This is the fucking thing." So, like, what would have been that line for Major?
Gunshot noises.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. The main reason why Major was not afraid of the coin, one, because it felt like the right move, like for like in character, and two, I was like, we need to move the plot along because if we're all afraid of this coin, then nothing's gonna get fucking done this session. So I think what would have deterred was, I think if seeing something on the coin move, like if there was like a face on it and it winked at her or it smiled oh, pardon me, that was the gross.
Ooh.
Or if it like smiled menacingly or something like that, if it had made a physical like movement change, then she would have paused, because otherwise this was just some weird custom manufactured coin that you can get. Like, I don't know why my brain is like, like when you go to a boardwalk or something and they have those like penny smasher machines and shit like that, like that's what I envision. Like Major would be like, yeah, that's just what happened.
It also
And
is clear that Major has helped Delilah do some rituals and spells and things in the past, because when you're dealing with the goblin, you helped her with some of the things.
grabbed it.
You grabbed it, and like when they
You
asked
gave us
for
some
things,
blood,
like
too.
you gave blood for for a spell.
That's true.
So
I
it might not
forgot
have been
about that,
as
not gonna lie.
conspicuous or as odd, because you spend a lot of time with Delilah, who's got weird things just in their
See,
possession.
but like, blood comes back eventually. A coin moving on its own, that's fucking weird. That's weird.
That's the
Magic
line.
can be denied. If someone was asking me, did that person just shoot a bolt of lightning? No. What do you think you saw? Pop. Like,
What do you
you're the
think you
crazy
saw?
one now. Exactly. It's
That's
just
fair,
like, you're
yeah.
delusional. She's just some crazy lady.
I do have to say, I really love the change of like basically the way you were talking with like denied. It's like a random sentence that someone clipped got added in there. Like magic can be
Amazing.
denied.
Denied. But yeah, so I don't know exactly what would have deterred her from that coin. But since I was the focus of secretion, I am going to we'll go to darkness. Let's see. What might Earl have done if we had gotten to stay in that ending?
Can I put some
If
guardrails on this?
if she had gotten to stay.
Yeah. So can I put some guardrails on this real quick?
Yeah.
If Hattie lived.
So if you, Darkness, had not had to leave,
That.
and because we covered already the act of sacrifice from Earl, you were unable to sacrifice Earl. Because I don't want this to just be, well, I would have sacrificed Earl, and then we move on.
If I'm being honest, I don't. Also, like, the wording of the question is very confusing to me.
So to reword it, it was, how would Earl have acted through that whole ending? Not like what necessarily would have changed, but what would Earl's response in the moment have been had you, Darkness, been present for it?
Okay.
Were you joining Team A, Team B, Team fucking
Very-
the guy in the corner?
That is a
All
very
I
different
fucking
perspective
did.
on the question,
All I
because that
did.
was not what I thought the question was asking.
Yeah, because
Earl
Earl
would've
was in
dropped.
the jail shooting up the place.
Yeah,
Was
he was
outside
there.
the back of it, shooting through a window.
Yeah,
Right.
Earl was like would have been right freaking there. He probably would have tried to stop the arm cutting. Been like, what the fuck you doing? Because enough blood had been shed by some of these people, and they had reasons to live, and been like that. And if he couldn't have stopped it, I don't know.
I'm not gonna
Earl
lie.
definitely would have had some shit to say.
That's fair. I'm not gonna lie. This kind of gives me flashbacks of like in a similar, like, my brain makes this connection to when Ramita tried to get Boston to go to the hospital for his like stomach injury. Like, I don't know why it makes me think of that. It's just like, no, you can't cut off. It's just like, you need to go to the fucking hospital for this injury you have, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why my brain is just like, I'm like, this is a uniquely Darkness and Brett situation.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's just Darkness looking out for people.
Amen.
Yeah.
If Earl had said you can't cut off your arm, it's like, well, you're not going to slit your throat with a knife. That's what Delilah would have said. Like, my arm, your life is more valuable than my arm, Mr. Earl.
I guess at that point, Earl probably would have attempted to be like, there's another way. Like, we don't have to play this guy's game.
Point Major probably would have interjected and said, well, then what else is there? Like, what are you going to do?
And then Allie, trying to be big and brave, would be like, here, take it. Holding out her money, not even looking. Just do it. At which point, everybody else in the group would have been like,
what the fuck?
Okay, so anyway, what are we going to sacrifice?
Honestly, another whole ass session. Like, Earl would have been like, no, you're not fucking doing this. We're finding another way. And then, like, trying to talk to the dude and been like, okay, what if we don't give it to you? Probably start a new loop, huh?
And just be like, then you all die and we start again. Pow, 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 pow.
If this had not happened, so there was a possible ending where the time loop ends with you all just dying forever. Like, you do not live outside of the loop. So there were full consequences on the table here, and I think you all felt that. Like,
yeah,
I don't think that was hidden. That there was a chance to perma die here. And so if you had absolutely gone completely the wrong direction and said, you know, F you to everything possible, then there is a strong chance that that would have ended with everybody dying, fade to black, and we're done. Which is something that I had to prepare for going into this, of like, hey, what happens if the story ends in just a sort of semi-unsatisfying TBK? Like, what happens there?
Semi-unsatisfying?
Right? Like, what, you know, how do you make that more satisfying, and how do you make that part of the story? And I had some backup stuff for that, but yeah, there was a total possibility that things did not go the way that they did.
Wild.
Yeah.
Were you satisfied
I don't know
with?
if Earl would have suggested killing, but he would have definitely tried to stop the arm cutting.
Yeah. Well, Delilah wasn't gonna let Earl sacrifice himself.
In the scuffle, more than likely, it had been. Yeah, Major would have offered up the money, and we would have all blown him off.
Allie.
You are correct. I am sorry. Allie would have offered up the money.
Yeah, we all would have been like, what the fuck does that do?
I think Major, if like the money was handed up, Major probably would have like flicked the wallet out of their hand and been like, "You're fucking useless. How dare you?" Almost.
That's mean,
like,
but very accurate.
It is mean, but to be fair, Major is not a nice person.
To keep us on track, Darkness, you're up.
Yeah.
Who you gonna ask?
Okay, Tony. Who the hell was the postman?
Ooh. The postman was a lower level being. Not quite middle manager. Much more as almost like a day laborer level. There are some of these beings in the world. Agent Letters was one. That have powers and have missions set to them by more powerful beings, and they have their own motivations. What's interesting is the farther you go down this pipeline, the closer you get to Delilah. So, I'm not going to delve too far into that, but these are not all of these beings are born this way. Some are made. And Well, Delilah has shown us one way you can get powers. So, there's kind of an interesting thing to talk about it from a narrative standpoint. The postman allowed me to serve you a bunch of plot hooks very quickly. Narratively,
they were just
and
hooks.
then a little bit. There's more to it. So they started with, I need someone to do this. And then the more I started writing the story and developing the story, the more I went, this person has some spice to them. There's something here. And that's who became the postman. So, without revealing too much more, because there is a potential for later things if we do move forward with this. I would say they are a being much like Ithra and Moart, but on a much smaller level, with a much smaller domain. So, yeah. So, let's. Allie is kind of interesting to me. I think Allie is one of the bigger enigmas, but also not, right? Like, they're an enigma, but they're also pretty transparent, and that's kind of fun to play with a little bit. So like, I am gonna go off of some of the questions we've written already, and you mentioned that Allie is kind of now at the conclusion of this, has a bit of doubt in themselves, which is kind of interesting to me. It means that Allie has always been able to do her conning and be very, very successful. The interesting part of that is New Gossimer is not a place for very, very successful people. So how does somebody who believes themselves to be very, very successful, whether or not they are, who believes themselves to be very, very successful, find their way to New Gossimer? And was there a larger like heist or a larger plan there?
I love that you said you were going off of the questions,
and then you
worked your way into them.
Yeah.
No, it was perfect. So I'm gonna address that because you did have several things in there. So first of all, it's good. It's layered. Allie absolutely has always been able to talk her way out of anything. In not in terms of like she's a master wordsmith or silver tongue or anything like that. Just that with enough time and enough bullshittery and enough charm, she can win anybody over long enough to get what she needs. And that's her mindset going into this. There is no such thing as the long con. She's there to get the buck and move on. And so she tends to hit smaller shithole towns like this. Is like her mindset of it. Because they're the really easy marks. She can hit either a couple of really big ones. So she can it kind of came out that her like go-to tactic in combat was to get right behind whatever it was and shoot it in the back of the head with a 12 gauge. With a very sawed-off 12 gauge. There's no chance of coming back from that. That's because like one of her go-to grifts is to be this like well-renowned bounty hunter who's here to hunt down someone, put together a posse, and then in the middle of the night after they've got the person, just go and cap the whole crew.
Good to know.
Turn in the bounty and be like, yeah, no, the rest of them didn't survive. This person killed them all. Who's going to ask questions? Bounty's turned in. So like that is her combat style. That's why she fights that way. And that's why she moves on quickly. She can't put down roots. So coming into this place where, one, there's not an easy thing that she can just bullshit her way out of. And two, she's stuck with a group of people that after maybe the third loop, there's no con. She can't pull her shit on these people because they know it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, she's lost her whole edge. There's nothing that she can do better than anyone in this group. She's not going to be a better shooter. She's not going to be a better fighter. She's not going to be better with people. She can't do any of this crazy magic stuff. So she's like, what am I doing with these people? But also, I have to be with these people. We're together for a reason. What, like this sort of spiral. But then to the main point of the question is why she came to New Gossimer. It was just the next spot on the map. So she probably would have picked up something simple here or turned in somebody else's mission. She's even gone so far as just straight up horse theft and like cattle theft. The kind of stuff that would get you executed if you got caught. But she would have flipped it on someone else and then taken the buck and moved on.
I do think it's interesting that New Gossimer would be the next node in the web of cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with what Gossimer is, usually Gossimer is described as like fine thread or spider silk, oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I intentionally built into this town, is the idea of a thread holding the world together being somewhere in this town. Which is why you see those intros. So I think that's kind of interesting that it'd be the next sort of node on the web.
So I have a question for everybody, and my order is going to be funky, but it's because I want it to end on Brett because I want him to go next. So I'm going to go first, then to Tony, and we'll do a reverse order ending on Brett.
Okay.
Which is if your character got to watch this stream, specifically the Tales of New Gossimer. So as a viewer, who would your character's favorite character have been? And I think
as actors, like watching the show, who would have been our favorite characters?
No. I mean, if in your case, if Delilah got to watch this, who would Delilah's favorite character have been? But not Delilah in universe. Delilah watching the show. That's the. And so for Allie, that would have been. It honestly probably would have been Nora. Because Nora pulled off the. Allie sees a lot of what she does with Nora, but Nora's doing it all in one bit. Nora has one play and does it well. Is the way Allie sees Nora's job. So I think that's who Allie's would have been. I said on to Tony, but you don't have a character here, so
I don't. So I was.
Who's your favorite player? Who's your favorite player?
Oh, me.
I mean, actually, asking a parent who their favorite child is.
I guess if you all, you guys can rephrase this if you want a different thing. But one way we could ask this is if you want to pick an NPC for me to embody, I can talk about who they might like.
The dead man, walking, the one that kept dying at the beginning of every round.
Yeah, the hangman.
So wait. So let me.
What his name was.
Los Gordo or something?
Los Gordo.
Los Gordon. Oh, that's an interesting poll. Okay. Ooh.
Tell us what your crazy prospector man would like.
Los Gordon I think ooh. Who would Lost Gordon have liked? Lost Gordon, I think, is a character who is a little world weary, maybe a lot world weary, right? And they're a character who has at this point settled into taking enjoyment in the little chaos that they can create. Um, to me, that really speaks to Allie. Um, Allie was a little chaos kicker, right? Like, um, every single time there would be sort of a stable situation, there'd be a little bit like, you owe me $5. Right? There'd be a little bit of just twisting in there. And for someone who treats this like daytime TV, I think that would be something that is less predictable and keeps them sort of watching.
I love that. Darkness. If Earl got to watch this show, who would Earl's favorite character have been?
Probably Major, if I'm gonna be honest. Given Major's like personal like strength to be unafraid to like run in, because I built Earl like a tank. Like Earl is supposed to be like
Big dude.
take the attack for everyone else, but Major ended up being this person, and so Earl would have had like a lot of respect watching and being like, "Damn, I wish I was like that." So.
That's cool.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. Speaking of Major, Bright.
So I have like two different characters that I think would be their favorite. One would be Major's favorite character would be Major because there's just like no nonsense about the business. Let's go. But then the other part of me really does, like, when I think of Major and like who could have like subconsciously been the inspiration for this character, it is my friend JJ and my dad. And I know for a fact because my dad loves Firefly, and this does somewhat give Firefly vibes because Weird West and things like that. Favorite character would be Nora because she's sexy.
I thought the inspiration for Nora was Firefly, like the lovely lady.
Oh, well, if it was, then I'm right on the money. Because
that.
100%, like, when I asked my dad who his favorite characters are, it was Jane, because he was no nonsense about the business, and Inara, because she was just the sexy companion. And...
Okay, also, she's stupid smart. Like, don't...
No, absolutely.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Like,
don't cut her short.
No, 100%.
Well, to be fair,
like,
that also matches with Nora.
Yep. Yeah, like very crafty, very clever, and like knows her way around, and it just also happens to be rural party.
Rural party.
So yeah. Like, I think about that. So I know my dad's not watching, but if he ever does, there you are.
Nora.
Then Blood. Who would Nora's favorite character have been?
So going to my viewpoint of my favorite characters in shows, it comes down to, and a lot of Nora would come down to, which one's cute and which one has a funny personality that I could totally have smutty and fanfics written about. So it would be a strike between Allie and Major, actually. Because...
Nice.
I mean... It's still kind of sitting there... I don't think, with Nora still having the connections to Delilah, that would be too close to home because Delilah's not sexy. Delilah is my sister. That's not a thing. And seeing a character act and behave like my sister would not be a turn on. So, but no, Major's like Darkness said, no nonsense, get to business, charge right in, regardless of what was coming, and just fucking go with it. Personality would be the first thing that Nora would be like, oh, okay, they're fun. They're sexy, they're fun. And then Allie trying to like wiggle her fucking way out of whatever bullshit we dragged her into. Being the con man, being the, well, maybe I should just I'll wait back here. You can have my weapons. I'll charge you for my weapons.
Double barrel shotgun.
Never the double barrel. Never the double barrel. She needs that to ice you when you turn on her.
Respect.
But yeah, so that would be where Nora's thought process is, oh, those two are interesting. I could definitely fuck them.
And then that leaves Brett, who would Delilah's favorite character have been as a viewer? Earl.
Mr. Earl. Earl reminds Delilah of her late husband. She really respected Earl. She kept trying to be as respectful as she can be and trying to respect what he wanted to do, even if they didn't agree on certain things. But every time, you guys can go back, every time she talked to Earl, she always called him Mr. Earl and made sure that he knew that he was okay because that they were nearby.
I did not catch that.
That's cute.
I did catch the Mr. Earls. I didn't catch the other part, but I love that. And then Brett, I left it for you.
You did. And so you kind of answered this already, Bright, my lovely wife. Does Major feel bad for Delilah losing an arm? Considering they were having this huge confrontation with this creature that wasn't getting answers, and immediately after they came out, already bloodied from a firefight you couldn't help with, went in there and immediately just made this deal.
I think I'm gonna stick with my original answer, which was what we talked about offline, which was, that was fucking stupid. How are you gonna shuffle cards with one hand? Because truly, I don't know if, I think there would be a certain level of guilt and, sympathy for that, but Major also doesn't understand necessarily what that sacrifice meant. And because, like previously stated, she didn't have anything sacrificial to give. Truly had nothing but her life, and even then, that's the life of a bounty hunter, is to potentially die for the job. And so with that, she thinks it's dumb because now you are at more of a disadvantage. Not only do you have one eye, but now you have one arm. Next thing she's gonna do, and it's just like, all right, well, the next sacrifice, which leg are you gonna give up?
Are they on the
which
same
boot
side?
you taking off?
Yes, they are. They're both on the left.
So there you go. You're just gonna be right-handed all the time. And,
I'm sure it was, but yeah.
I'd hate to be the one that once again says this, but the trauma that Major went through, we need to investigate it, right?
100%.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that.
Get in the water.
You know what? I would love for all of you guys to write my backstory, and then I'll pick bits and pieces I like, and then that's what Major's made of. That's what makes her Major Ace. Oh, also her last name is Mask.
Every one of us has trauma, and we're just gonna write our own lives into Major's life, and then you just get to read 5 really sad stories.
No.
Well, also, I mean, we could, because this is just to point out again, her last name is Mask. So we could fully write that in as
I don't know if it's
is her actual first name Tuxedo?
So our next time we're stuck like this, guys, we each, before We each need to write Major's backstory. And then the next time we have a day where like this, Bright's just gonna read them all out and decide which one.
Just Mad Lib
Oh
style.
yes, my sad fan fiction.
I love that. Bright, it is you.
Yes, and I am going to ask, let me see.
Thanks, Mono.
Yeah, thank you, Mono.
Mono, thank you.
You know what? I'm curious because I'm the one who wrote this question. Tony,
We're doing some Q&A here.
What was your favorite moment of improv that you or a player did?
Motherfucker.
We're doing a Q&A for our last for our last series that we did.
And you're coming in on a great question, you guys.
Yeah.
On the spot, pick it.
So here's the thing. So it's hard for me because there's one that sticks out more than the rest, but it's because it's the final one, more than anything. And so that's the easy answer here. But I think I'm trying to think back to other bits of improv throughout the.
Tony doesn't
Honestly,
remember his campaign.
no. I think one of the most underrated. So the easiest one is the sacrificing of the arm. That's like the easiest choice there, right? Because it was the last really big improv moment that happened in this game. But I'd like to go to the very first. And I don't know how many of y'all. It was the first thing that really was a player doing something that I had not accounted for. Can any of you guess what I'm about to say?
Was it how I interact with the dolls?
No. Was it the second?
Well,
that's how I interacted with the dolls.
He said the first, the very one of the first things, and it was the bomb.
No. It was the very first episode, but it was not the very first thing in the first episode. It was actually at the very end of the first episode. And it was Darkness. Darkness making the choice to go hand in hand and walk to their own death with law enforcement. And that moment of... Because... So, to peel back the curtain a little bit, originally, when I was writing this, law enforcement was not helpful, but law enforcement was not a big negative force. That one decision changed everything.
Wow.
Earl's an honest man. I'll stick with that.
And I think that's really hard to beat. So I think that's my choice.
I think that also helped you, Tony, work through some stuff that you had to keep tight.
It was not. I will say it was not me processing some other stuff. I will refute that a little bit. I know that it would be all too easy for that to be the case. It was not. So, but we're getting close, I think, to the end of tonight's episode. I think we're gonna probably end here in about 15 minutes. So it's probably a really good time to end on an everyone question, I would say. So, I think this is fun for an ending question. What is the most interesting or a way that we did not talk about? What is one interesting way you think your character died that we did not cover in game?
I definitely got killed while trying to seduce the sheriff.
Oh, I like that choice. Can you give me some more details?
Horrible. Oh,
well,
no.
So by the end of it, we find out that Mans is just a murder machine, right? And the way I kind of envisioned this is at some point or another we've decided that we wanted to go into the jail before the ending. And it is Nora's job some way or another, or the job that Nora signed up for, to distract and get in there, and at some point or another there's gonna be a slip up because of how terrifying this man is and the aura of fear that he emits, and the fact that Nora is 100% sold on the I have to do this, 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 oh god, fuck me! And I think at some point or another, it either he gets fed up with her and just fucking blows her away, or she lets it slip that in some way or another she needs him not to be here for things to happen. Please come with me. What things are happening? I don't know!
Without getting too gruesome, I think that Nora learns the use of the curved bayonets.
Yeesh.
That is I think the small addition I would make to what you've got there. Because yikes. So let's go ahead. I know Bright sort of gave big eyes when we were originally asking this question, which either meant no ideas or a full idea. Did anything pop to mind, my friend?
I mean, the silly answer would be that she failed like an animal handling check and got trampled by a horse, to be honest. I think that would be a stupid way that she had died. A meaningful way would be that the bomb didn't go off in the saloon in the morning, and the people who had sent the bomb in there were like, shit, now we gotta firing squad it, and she stands in front of Nora and Delilah to protect them per her contract.
That's cool. Sort of the gunslinger's last stand.
Yeah.
Facing overwhelming odds.
Yep.
I really like that. Go ahead and bump down. Let's bump down to Raven.
So Allie was super nervous around the marshals the whole time. And I think at some point Allie would have said something that made probably Nora snap again, because Nora had already killed Allie at least once.
No. Delilah.
Yeah, that's right.
killed...
Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think one of them would have said or done something knowing that it would get Allie in trouble. And she would have met her end there, but not directly at the hands of the sheriff, because I don't want to touch that introduction, because no character I've ever played has shit bricks harder than that moment.
So
I think it would have been a sort of similar thing to what happened with Earl, but not as a like, oh, I'm turning myself in or I'm going to go interact. It would have been, she said the wrong thing, pissed off somebody in the group, who then was like, oh, hey, look at this. And then the marshals come over and fucking iced.
Wow.
And then let's go to Brett.
He probably tried to call upon a certain power trying to negotiate and just got destroyed.
Ooh.
Trying to play with things that she shouldn't have, or trying to put up a spell or ward trying to repel whatever's this Dark Master was. And it just laughed and just like turned her into paste. Like moisture sort of thing. Just like, no, you don't
like it a bug.
Like, no, we don't like you.
That's I like that. That's interesting. And then darkness.
I feel like in one of the loops, they went down into the mines, and Earl died of a panic attack. Like he tried to get out of it, but ultimately everyone forced him to, and he just straight up fucking dies of a heart attack, like drops to the ground. In the
I feel like the fear table would have rolled in favor of that for sure.
Yeah.
I will follow up with some GM information that you all never got to see or hear. The entrance to the mines, there are two entrances to the mines. The one you likely would have taken is a mesh metal elevator that slowly lowers you into a dark, like it is a circular hole in the ground, and it slowly lowers you down. It is not a fast elevator.
Oh.
And so
Right
there is like a solid minute and a half where you contemplate your descent into the darkness.
That's it. That's the time. Everyone else is just fine, chilling, and then Earl's just slowly starting to panic more and more and more.
Delilah also gained a fear of the dark, so they would probably have been in a similar boat.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And torches aren't allowed because Ghost Rock is a fuel source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earl would have definitely had a heart attack. Just straight up in front of everyone.
As we're coming to the end, we have one more everyone question I have. But the other thing that I want to do is I want to open this up because we have like 10 more minutes here. And I don't think the everyone question will take that long.
I have a question.
What other pressing world building questions do you have? Like, is there anything else that you are like, I got one shot to get this answered? You know, and if there's nothing, that's okay. But I want to open this floor up for another second here.
I want to ask a stupid question.
Oh, go ahead.
If you had... So, we all know I'm a stupid romance buff. Who the fuck would your character end up with?
Oh, you're talking for everyone.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If you had to pick somebody
we can do that.
in the group, if we could...
Yeah, I was requesting world building questions, but yeah, we can totally do that. I'm down for that.
If there were romantic entanglements.
How about so Brett has a question that I know he wants to ask. How about we end on that one instead of the one I was going to ask? Okay, cool.
Okay.
Because I like that. I think that's going to be fun.
Yes.
But I know Brett had a more on topic.
And actually on topic comment.
How were the kids freed from their curse or their state with their mom after we finished the cycle, or were they still stuck as dolls back in their house?
So, this will not come up in the later story, so I have no issue sharing this.
Mm-hmm.
Moart made them dolls to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the dolls are something that can survive much better than the human body, which is kind of what you saw. You shot one and it did not die. That doesn't normally happen with humans, right? So, so this was Moart's way of actually insulating them from Moart's own domain. Right? Moart, as a reminder, is their domain is the instance of death, which is kind of an interesting thing. It is the mouth of a river or the like wellspring, right? If you dam that up, you can effectively stop the river. So they have uniquely one of the few powers to prevent crossing over or death. which is kind of unique, kind of very interesting.
Mhm.
And so the children do not die. Um, they are um, brought back
Preserved.
to their mortal form later. Um, and after that, that's something that I don't have an answer to yet. So that's yeah.
Excuse me.
But I
Oh.
do know that they are not punished in any way. They are not truly negatively impacted by this.
Okay.
Thank you. That answers that question.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Blood. To your
Uh-oh.
crush question. Who's first?
Let's go.
Wait, are we doing that one now?
I mean, I think so.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I say I can make up
We're
other
last 5
questions in
minutes.
between here or there, but
We're
yeah,
in the last,
that's
yeah,
absolutely.
last 5 minutes. Okay, let's go around the circle. Tony, who would you hope to get together? And then we'll go on the bottom row and then to the top.
Oh, I was not prepared for that.
So Tony, your ship, and then the rest of us will do our character's crush.
Yes.
I would request. Oof.
No judgment.
Also,
just
as a quick aside, if any two people agree, do their characters get together when we come back to this?
Absolutely, please.
That is a problem for later us if that happens.
Please.
That is a
Segue.
problem for
This is our
later
segue
us.
into Thirsty Gay Thursdays tomorrow, by the way.
And I think
It
so.
is
Here's the thing. I know you wanted to start with me, but I think it is more fun to end with me. One, because I need time to think about this, because this is something that I have not contemplated. Usually I have, but I have not contemplated this.
That's fair.
I don't want this to become like a Nash and Boston thing, though.
No, 100%.
all-
This is purely just if they had to choose at the moment of the end of the campaign, with everything that happened, who do they think they are closest with, and what their preferences in such things would be. Fine. Fuck it. I'll start first. Nora wanted to fuck Major.
So I also have a fully fledged answer for this, and it is the exact same one Major wanted to be with Nora. Because, one, I feel like at one point or another, there would have been a drunken one-night stand at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
First and foremost, I think it would have happened. Two, I do think that after all of this, there would be this need to, like, protect and also, like, the bubbling, like, care for, like, we've traveled together before, we've worked together before, we've actually spent a lot of time together. Granted, Delilah was also there, but, third wheels have to be had sometimes to make a wheel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Wheelbarrow. It's fine.
Exactly. So, I do think that it was something where, like, I think that Major would realize that they have these feelings and then contemplate on do I change, like, do I try and, like, reach out, or do I just maintain the same? Because, like, if they like me back, they like me because I'm me and not because I'm some, like, like, I'm not gonna go girly on this. Like, no, I'm a fucking man's woman, like
awkwardly hand them a flower. You want to go to the bar sometime? Like
100% would happen. Like, find a random, like, freaking desert flower of some sort and just, like, turn away, hand it to them, and just be like, "You want to get drinks or something?" Just like.
And that would be the moment that Nora would absolutely pull them into a kiss.
I love that.
And Delilah's like, Beans a ref. Motherfucker. Just trying to make dinner. Just
trying to make dinner over on the other side of the campfire.
Like, come on, guys.
Like,
get a 10.
Get a 10.
Bet.
It can't be mine.
I own my own 10.
Definitely
I
would
have a
not
better
be.
horse than you.
So we seem to be going in this order. So Darkness, lovely painting. Who would Earl?
I love the panic.
and crushing on within the party.
Panic.
Earl's not crushing on anyone in the group.
That's
like,
fair.
I'm
Miss
not
Hattie.
gonna lie.
Miss Hattie.
Yeah, Miss Hattie was all he had eyes for, and honestly, with her gone and him being unable to sacrifice himself, he probably would have left the group and opened the bar himself.
Oh,
Interesting.
that's actually a cute
Delilah,
fuck
that-
answer,
Good
though.
answer.
It really is.
Like I said, Delilah's not really a creature of romance and passion that died the same day her husband did. But like I said, Mr. Earl reminds of the softness and the kindness and the probably a little too fidgety for his own good that Mr. Earl had. She would try to make advances, but considering his grief, she'd leave it alone.
I love that.
That leaves you, friend.
Oh yeah.
Well, you and Tony, but
Allie really only has one person in this group that she even thought of as being a friend. Was probably one of the nicest people to Allie through the whole thing, which was Major. Also,
love it.
yeah,
Major.
a
Love
strong
the
woman.
attention. Oh,
So
Nothing's
yeah, Allie.
changed.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No. Allie would have absolutely been like, if there's anyone here, that's the one.
Interesting.
And now Tony for your shipping.
Yeah. So for me, I think it would have been kind of interesting to do like an Ali Nora, because it almost feels like Lady and the Tramp a little bit to me, like
A little bit.
a little bit of like the dirty, scroungy, like con woman, and then somebody who's a little bit more refined at times, right? Like Nora can be unrefined, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit more of like your classic sort of trope to it, which I would find kind of fun.
you're ruining my good silks.
I love that we have collectively shipped a love triangle and 2 singles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is a proper love triangle where it could go a lot of directions.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like
probably okay in the.
I'm imagining Nora going to prison and like they come across someone that Ali didn't kill and like he's a tramp like style like song plays. And you find out how many people Ali's actually killed. Because Ali's not going to confess that to any of us. You out of your mind? They would never confess. Like,
I mean, so later, off camera, later.
Yeah.
Because I'm not done with this conversation. Not this one in particular, whatever. These questions, I need to know.
But yeah, so I think that would have been my approach was basically finding tropes that I really would like. And I think that's the closest one that fits. There are probably others, but I think that's really close to that cookie cutter, right? Much like a really trashy, terrible rom-com that you would watch, I think this could be turned into a pretty good rom-com. And I'm a sucker for a good rom-com. Oh, absolutely! Enemies to lovers. I mean, it's got some nice.
That's a really good point.
Ooh,
that really
if we did
is.
enemies to lovers, honestly, that would be Allie and Delilah, though. Like, 100%. That is the enemies to lovers right there.
A little
Seeing
bit,
as
but
they fucking
once
kill
again,
each other?
Delilah specifically is not interested.
Yeah.
No, but I'm fully aware. But like, if there was to be,
and that's part of why I wanted to wait till the end, is because I knew a good chunk of our players or characters were not interested, and I wanted to make sure I had that before I chose my ship completely. I had an idea of where I wanted to go, but I wanted to make sure that we weren't putting anybody in that sort of Nash and Boston way where we kind of got shipped there a little bit
by force.
Yeah, a little, and it was a little bit our fault on that one. I'll own that. Like we did
I
play
had
into it
nothing
a
to do
little
with
bit
that.
for goofiness.
Guys
But
can be bros and not be gay. End of sentence.
Two bros chilling in a hot tub, 5 feet apart because they're not gay.
Except that if it were Nash in Boston, it would have been in Nash's lap.
Not true. It's just not true. Because there was a hot tub.
There was.
There was.
Anyway, we are out of time for today's
Yes,
session.
We are. So, anyway, this has been an episode of the Wednesday Night Revival, sort of a between the graves segment, I'd say here.
I just named it after Gossimer.
Yeah, which I have fixed, but it refuses to fix itself on my end. So, whatever.
We'll edit it when it hits YouTube.
It's fine. After Gossimer, which I think has been a lot of fun to go and explore. Make sure you check out all the other cool stuff we do, like Thirsty Gay Thursday, the One Shot Wonderarium, Spawn Camp, our Patreon, which we have a free level where you get some stuff, and a $1 level. We also have some higher levels where you get some more things. But if you just want to support us in small ways, the $1 level, the low levels are really amazing to show your support.
Yes.
And of course, you can follow each of us on our respective platforms on our LinkedIn or Linktree. Sorry,
well, you do
wrong
need to
thing.
change the Linktree for my thing because I rebranded. I keep forgetting to say that.
But yeah, so you can follow us on the Linktree, and you come back and see us again. I think this, I will say, unintentionally, this this campaign has fit our Wednesday Night Revival motto the best, because in this game we do look pretty good for a dead bitch.
You know.
Bye-bye.
So,
night,
bye-bye,
guys.
See you next week.